Hi y'all, this is Larry from deep South Texas. It's April 1st, 2018, and it's time to take another view of the garden. It's been 2 weeks, and I think you're going to be excited about the growth that's gone on. So let's get started. The corn has really taken off in the last 2 weeks. It's grown at least 2 feet, maybe 3. So, got a regular cornfield here now. Hasn't tasseled yet, but I think maybe by the next update it will. We'll see. Got a couple watermelons started down here. Maybe the corn will be out before they need the space. And a bush zucchini here. It's putting on some zucchinis as well. Here's another squash that's growing in a shadier part of the garden. You can see it looks like it's starting to develop some powdery mildew. I think there's a spray I can make up that uses baking soda or something like that to help that out. I'm going to try not to procrastinate and get that done this week. I do have this kind of a problem down here with squash, with cucumbers, with zucchini. So I need to get that made and see how that works. I've never done it before, but we'll give it a try. Most of the tomatoes are flowering now, and a lot of them have green tomatoes growing. Here are those Romas that I showed you last week, and this plant probably has more than a dozen tomatoes growing on it now. So we should have some tomatoes soon. The leeks, I did add some dirt to the leeks to bring them up to the top of the bed. I don't know how they're going to do this year. They may stay in the ground until next year. They weren't very big when I planted them, and they're still not very large. This tomato here is, I think it's called a Baltimore, and it has several very beautiful tomatoes on right now. Lots of yellow leaves on the garlic. I did dig around the bottom of one a week ago, and they just don't seem like they're ready yet, but from this side of the ground they look like they ought to be ready. My mortgage lifter tomatoes are flowering, but they're really not setting any fruit yet. I wanted to give these a try. I tried them last year and didn't have much luck, so I'm going to try them again and see. But they look nice, but not much fruit at this point. Here are some more Roma tomatoes that I've been attempting to tie up and keep them pruned back to a single stem. I've never done this before. I've always just grown them in cages. So I wanted to see how this worked. You know, it's working. You know, I have tomatoes, but it seems like I don't have as many as the ones that are in the cage. We'll see if this helps later in the season when I usually get a lot of tomato diseases and blight. So maybe this will be better for that. The bed of red potatoes and white potatoes has now started to flop over and beginning to die back. I'm guessing that in about a month we'll be harvesting these. The heritage roses that we have growing in the center of our garden were only just budding out 2 weeks ago. Today they're in full bloom and really look beautiful. The jasmine growing on the garden fence is in bloom right now. Really adds a sweet smell to the garden. The dill has been just going crazy, but I came out here yesterday and I saw some caterpillars hanging on the dill. As it turns out, I think they're swallowtail butterfly caterpillars, so I'm going to leave them on here. But they will just devastate this dill plant, I think, in no time at all. I don't know if you can see those. There's about 5 of them on that one dill flower there. The squash plant has been doing its best to take over the whole garden, but we have some fairly nice sized squash coming on now, and more on the way. The biggest one is right down here, so it's going to be a beauty. The first several that came on, seems like they didn't get pollinated, and they're sort of drying up now. But and some of the older leaves are starting to turn yellow on the bottom of the plant. But we're going to have squash. The celery continues to grow very well. So the cook decided to come out and take some spears off of the one that I use that I video, but they're doing good. I'm looking forward to having celery. I'm probably going to dehydrate a lot of these. The cucumbers that were replanted are now beginning to climb up the trellis. So looking forward to having some cucumbers here shortly. These cucumbers are straight 8s, I believe. There's another group of cucumbers in the bed next door. They're not quite as far along, but these are some Asian cucumbers. So I think they get real long. I have a pretty tall trellis here for them to grow on. We'll see how high they get. The pole beans went wild in the last 2 weeks. They've reached the top of the trellis. They are flowering profusely, and we should start seeing some beans in the next week, and probably be ready to pick in 2 weeks. The onions continue to do well. It's like a field of onions here. A few of the onions are starting to bulb up. That's good. Here are the shallots. They're still doing okay. A couple of them, though, that came up late So they're the last ones to come up, and the smallest ones, they look like they're dying. I think it's too hot for them. They weren't big enough before the weather turned hot. And the weather has been hot here. It's been in the 90s every day this week. So I think the following week it's going to cool down to be less than 90, but it'll still be in the high 80s. My biggest problem here is gardening in the summer. It gets hot. It gets hot too fast. I wanted some jalapenos in the garden, and we ran out of space. So we planted about 5 of them in here with the strawberries. They're flowering, and some of them have little fruit coming on right now. And the moringa continues to get bigger each day. So it's looking good. This particular one is still piddling along, but at least it's alive and growing. And still the little one down there hasn't done anything yet. We had a couple hens go broody about 2.5 weeks ago. So we moved them over to this chicken tractor. I think they each have about 7 eggs under them. They are faverolles, although the eggs they're sitting on could be almost anything. Anyway, we'll be looking forward to hatching some new chicks here. Starting in about 3 days. We'll take you along for the ride. Well, that's it for the tour for this week. We'll try to have another update in about 2 weeks, but be on the lookout for that chicken hatching video. Hopefully we'll have the following week. Remember to like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.